Hello and welcome to LandPowerTV. Now, if you're somebody that likes vintage and modern classic tractors, then stick around because boy have we got a programme for you. We are here at the Three Counties Showground in Malvern and this is Tractor World. In this episode, we're going to be taking a closer look at all the different flavours, shapes and sizes of tractors on display, talking to some of their owners and finding out more about some of these remarkable machines. So let's get started. Okay, so if you happened to watch last year's programme when we were here at Tractor World, you may recognise Mr. Geoff Ashcroft. Now, the focus of our interview last year was these wonderful Ford tractors behind us. However, this year we're going to be doing something just a little bit different because at the end of the row is another tractor that belongs to Geoff, and that's a John Deere 4240S. A significant model in John Deere's repertoire, essentially an American 40 series assembled in Germany with a ZF mechanical front axle, yeah?
Correct, yeah, because I think prior to this there was hydraulic assist front axles on them, yeah. And the S was something that moved it on again. So as far as I'm aware, 7.6 litre Waterloo engine, and then it's got the quad range transmission in this. Yeah, it's 132 horsepower, yeah? Yes, on
totally
a good day.
Underrated, I always think of that, because they managed to put, this is the same engine they put in the big Arctic models, wasn't it? And in this tractor, they must have turned the screw down on the pump as low as it could possibly go.
Absolutely.
To get it to a wheeze at 100. I don't think it ever was 132 horsepower. I think they were, whatever it was, I think they were more like 150 all day long.
One day I'll get it on a dyno, but it's a relatively new addition to me, Simon, so I'm still finding my way with the green stuff.
It is.
But this is an early one, as you know, because it's got the lower half of the cab is painted green. Yep. They only did that for a short period of time before everything then went black.
Mm-hmm. Now, this one you said to me before we were on camera, this is lived in France.
Yeah.
So, and its whole working life was in France.
Pretty much, yeah. I think the backstory I found out from it came in through McLean's, mm-hmm. and the guy I bought it from had it from McLean's about 6 years ago. He was a Ford guy, worked for TH White's. That's why he's got some rather odd TH White stickers on the side. He had a green itch to scratch, but he's a blue guy through and through, and came up for sale through a good friend of ours, Andrew Collier. It was a friend of Andrew's. And for me, it was a tractor that I'd always kind of admired growing up. It was one of those,
100%. Sad
as it sounds, it was kind of like a poster tractor because of the stance, the proportions of it. And I thought, well, one day I'll have a 4240S, and here it is. And here it is. Yeah.
And she is a very nice 4240S. She's very complete, isn't she?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just his original condition. Are you aware of any restoration that's been done?
Oh yeah. Well, you haven't got to look too closely to see.
There's a bit of paint being going on here.
It's had a bit of brushwork. The previous owner, through COVID, got the foxtail out, bless him, and did a bit of tidying up around the chassis and the wings. So there's a few and the wheels. There's a few things I want to address, let's say, just improve a little bit, and of course, being a French tractor, it's got a continental hitch on the back. But finding a pickup hitch for these is going to be as rare as rocking horse poo. But yeah, generally, it's in pretty good order. I mean, the guy put Manitou mirrors on it just to give a bit more visibility than standard. He did cut down the exhaust because of where it lived in his barn. So I've recently bought a new full-length extension with the top of the silencer. Right. I like stuff to be just about how it should be.
And you've even got the American warning triangle on the back of the tractor.
Yeah, no. Is that a French thing?
I don't know. Is it a French thing? I don't know. Maybe
it came with it, Simon. It came with it.
Maybe somebody will put it in the comments. It might be a French thing. I don't know. It's definitely a Yank thing, though, isn't it?
But I mean, the guy I bought it from, he got the V5. He got it verified through John Deere. Got it registered on an age-related plate, and here we go.
What's she like in the cab? Is she clean? Is she tidy?
Yeah, you're more than welcome to step up and have a look,
Can we have a look in the cab, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, I know that you're not actually a big fan of the SG2 cab, are you? Because if we cut you in half, you'd have Ford written through the middle of you. But having the fact that you've actually bought a John Deere, and I just love this cab. I've cut my teeth in these SG2 cabs. Well,
I find the Super Q cab to be more spacious and more contemporary.
Yeah.
I haven't done enough with this yet to really think that I enjoy sitting in this particular cab. I love the sound of the engine, Simon. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it's not actually a It's not actually a SG2. It's actually a Sound Guard body, isn't it? Because the Sound SG2 cab was for the Mannheim 40 series tractors, wasn't it? So
I'll bow to your knowledge.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just saying again. Somebody else might correct me on that. You don't know, but it's all black inside. It's the American sort of fit and finish.
Yeah, and I prefer the black to the brown.
Yeah,
I really do. There's a couple of brown bits. The speaker pods, I guess, have been changed or added at some point behind your head. But yeah.
I remember talking to an engineer from John Deere many years ago, and he said the reason why John Deere went with black inside the cab, because obviously it absorbed the heat and everything else and showed all the dust, was because when they were going to suppliers to get the components made for the original Sound Guard body design, nobody could match the colours. They all came with a whole box of different colours, and the only colour that anybody could match was black, so that's why they went with black, until the Sound Guard 2, by which time technology had gone. That's the useful tip of information for the day, viewers. Anyway, it's a lovely tractor, it really, really is. I could quite happily spend some time on this. It's a big unit for only 100 and whatever it is horsepower though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
But yes, significant, again, because of this mechanical front-wheel drive, which they needed for
Doesn't
European
sound like a Golf,
conditions.
does it? I've got a door handle job to fix on this, but yeah.
No, it doesn't. It does. It's got a little bit of a thump.
It's got a bit of wear on it, that's what it's got.
It is a lovely tractor. It certainly is a lovely tractor, and I do appreciate you showing us around it today.
No, that's fine. Well, I say it came with LED lights on the front, so I've managed to source a pair of proper lights.
Good man.
They had to come from Holland, and I've recently swapped the weights because it had the wrong slope on the handle. The purists will probably know that you've got to have the flat handle on the 40 series, I believe, and the later 50 series on the bigger tractors had a different profile. But hey, it's attention to detail, isn't it? Well, it's worth it every time.
That's what it's about, isn't it? But it takes a little bit of time to do it. And anything like this, as you say, it's an ongoing restoration. Any plans to get it working this year?
Yeah. When I get the chance, I'm hoping there's going to be some spring ploughing fairly locally. I want to give it a workout. It does breathe a bit, and I don't think it's done a lot for the last 5 or 6 years, other than a few road runs and sugar rain.
It sounds to me like it needs
it
a bit
wants
of
to
work.
get hot. It needs its tongue out, and I think it'll settle down. And if that doesn't cure it, they'll have to put a set of liners in it.
It needs its tongue out. Well, you heard it here first, folks. It needs its tongue out. Geoff, thank you very, very much.
Cheers, Simon. Nice to see you.
Enjoy the show. We'll see you a bit later.
Thanks, mate.
So, as we were mentioning just now, looking at the 4240S, which has got a ZF-developed four-wheel drive system, which collaboration with John Deere when they did it. This is a 4240 non-S, and if you look down here, you'll see that it's got the hydraulic assist front-wheel drive, which is what the Americans called it, front-wheel drive as opposed to four-wheel drive, which is meant to assist traction in difficult conditions. It wasn't necessarily very reliable, and it certainly wasn't suited to European conditions, hence the introduction of the 4240S tractor. And when they came out with the 3040 series tractors, they also featured mechanical four-wheel drive. So now you know. So we have another familiar face here with me at the moment. This is Mr. Andrew Walters, who again was in our programme last year. Now this year I'm going to talk to him about this rather delightful Ford 8100, which you've not long finished restoring, have you?
No, last week.
There you go, last week.
Last week.
So tell me a little bit about this 81, where it fits in your life.
Yeah, so as a youngster, my father worked on a farm, and they had one of these as a harvest or in a hire tractor back in them days.
Oh, really?
It was a bit rough and ready tractor, but it just had something about it. It's, you know, it's got a bit of a stance about it. It's yeah, and I always quite fancied one. And a family friend, or my wife's best friend's father, had this parked up in a shed and used it a couple of times a year for a bit of baling and a bit of muck spreading. And I just dropped the comment, if you ever want to sell it, I'd like to buy it. And he said, I'll never sell it. Anyway, about 12 months later, I was actually here at Three Counties, and he rang me and he said, actually, I might sell that tractor without any question. I said, you know, what do you want for it? And within about 30 seconds, we had agreed that I was going to have it.
Fabulous, absolutely delightful.
And yeah, it was in a fairly reasonable state, to be honest. Like I say, it had been a working tractor, so it you know, mechanically was fairly sound. Once I got it home, my first outing was to the big Ford 6-cylinder working day down at Devizes. Put a cultivator on the back of it, was roaring up and down the field, and the head gasket went. Nice plumes of white smoke, and so we put it back on the lorry and took it home. And good friend Geoff Ashcroft gave me a hand with it, and we had the head off and went through the engine, got it running again. And Geoff said to me, do you know what? He said, we'll do a seat refurbish.
A seat refurbish?
Yeah, so a seat refurbish. So,
that's a hell of a seat refurbish.
So I said, well, what we're doing, to make it easy, we'll take the cab off. Well, that was bad news.
Yeah.
That was bad news, because once the cab was off, you know what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
And as you can see, we've taken just over 3 years to get to this stage. I sprayed the last of the tin work last week, or was last weekend.
Yeah.
It drove out the workshop last week for the first time. So,
well, I have to say, it is a beautiful tractor. You've done a
I'm
really
very proud of it.
remarkable job of it.
Yeah.
I mean, they only made them a couple of years, weren't they? They were assembled by County, weren't they?
They were.
Because they wanted this bit, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. It was a bit of an oddball tractor, really. They weren't very popular. I think they struggled to give them away. But yeah, it's got that bit of county heritage to it, which is nice.
Yeah. That adds to their history a little bit, doesn't it? I think they were more popular in Europe. I think than
so.
France and
they
places.
Seem to every picture you see of them, they seem to be on a forager or something. You know,
Yeah,
they were a lugging tractor, I think. And I haven't found out yet who supplied it. It originally was supplied around the sort of Stonehouse, Gloucester area.
So where's the Oakes Brothers?
So Oakes Brothers. So the reason for the Oakes Brothers plaques, my father worked for Oakes Brothers for 30 years. Sadly passed away 2 years ago.
Oh, right.
And I got the Oakes Brothers plaques as a bit of a memory to Dad, to be honest. Being a Ford salesman for 30 years, he sold a lot of tractors, and yeah, it's just a bit of a memory to Dad, that. So
that's a nice touch. I like that. And the cab, you've had it. Is it? I suppose it's not open, is it? Really?
It isn't open, but I can open it.
It's absolutely delightful in there.
Purchased the cab interior from Logan McMaster in Ireland.
Ireland, yeah.
I'm not going to say it was easy to fit, because it wasn't. There was a bit of cutting and shaping and to do, but it's turned out well, to be honest.
I mean, it is absolutely beautiful. Yeah. Look at that. And you know, when these tractors came out, you know, when the 700s came out, the 6777, all those models, was it 1977, around that time? I can remember. You got in the cab. I remember the first time I drove one, and I was thinking, shit, this is luxury. I mean, compared to, you know, what we had before that, your 5,000, your 7,000, I mean, they were just absolutely fabulous. And I still like it in there. You got that nice truck dash, because it was nice styled, and your tilt steering. It's still
big, roomy cab, you know.
It's still a nice place to sit even now.
It's a nice place to sit, yeah.
It is. It's and the tractor's a good looking tractor. It's very American, but
it's got some presence about it. Big two-wheel drive tractor.
It's any plans to work it at all?
Yeah, I think, well, as you saw last year with the John Deere, that's all very shiny, but I think it's time to get on and use them. They sit in the shed and they look pretty, but I think we need to get it out there. I've got a couple of Dowdeswell ploughs, so we'll get a plough on it and blow some smoke, I think.
That's it. So we've got a bit of smoke to blow with this. So we've got Geoff getting the tongue hanging out on his John Deere. So between the two of you, it's going to be quite a spectacle when you get out of it.
We'll get out and blow some smoke and make some noise, I think. So,
Sir, thank you very much for having a chat with us today. And
have a good
show. See what else we can find, shall we? one of the most striking MF100 series tractors I've seen in a long time is this very beautifully restored 1976 MF165, which is a late production example of these very, very, very popular tractors in their day. What I like about this tractor particularly is that it has its complete, genuine, original cab setup on it, which is quite rare to see these days. Now, the man who has owned this tractor since 1982, at least it's been in the family since 1982, is Mr. Tom O'Malley. Tom, lovely to see you. Tell me a little bit about this tractor and what its history with you is and what we're doing with it.
Well, originally my dad bought it from Ashcroft Motors in Penrith.
Right.
They were down in Lowther Park, and it was about 6-year-old when he bought it. It would come out of Lincolnshire, I would think.
Right.
Because Ashcroft Motors used to fetch them up from Lincolnshire, because I suppose once upon a time a 165 in Cumbria would be a big...
Yeah, it would have been a decent tractor.
It was a big tractor. And as I say, we've owned it originally. My dad got a fencing contracting job on Troutbeck Bypass, and he put a parameter post driver on it.
Right.
And he did quite a lot of fencing and all that with that then. And and as I say, we've owned it since 82, 6-year-old. It actually got written off once in its life. It took off down a fell when they were fencing.
No
and
way.
and it got written off, and we bought it back off the insurance. And it basically, by then, it was kind of we'd replaced it with a bigger tractor, a Ford tractor, and it just spent its life in the yard on a sweeping brush, a PTO sweeping brush in the yard, and just doing bits and bobs of jobs around the yard. And then 2018, I sent it to James Carder in Kirby Stephen.
Right, yep.
And James did it up 2018. Made an absolute lovely job of it.
It's a complete... Did you have the engine rebuilt? Was it all
he went
mechanically overhauled? Yeah, everything?
He went through everything. He said there's a lot of people approach him to say, can we just have it painted? But he says he doesn't do that. He wants to go through it, because you'll get them painted and next thing you're taking them to bits and spoiling all the paint. So he does it right through the whole lot.
Now, is she a 6 or an 8-speed tractor?
Well, it's high and low box, obviously.
Is it 4 speeds?
No, 3.
It's 3 speeds.
Three in a reverse.
6 speed.
Yeah.
And very, very highly original. Now, as I said at the beginning when we started talking, the fact that you've gone to this great lengths to put all the original type of cladding back on the tractor. A lot of people don't, and it's a lot of extra work to do. What inspired you to do that?
Just because it was originally like that, and you're right, I could have taken the option and made it a lot cheaper for me to restore it by taking the cab off. But obviously I wanted to keep it as original as possible. It had a cab on, and I can remember driving it as a boy and pulling the plastic round the engine
out,
and you're just lovely warm inside the cab. You know what I mean? Yeah. So no, it was.
Oh, that was the heating.
Yeah, it was the heating.
The heat washed off the engine down with it.
Blew right down come right into the cab.
And then in the summertime, we used to turn the doors out or take them off.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I think the doors did spend a lot of time in a porter cabin in the back of our yard, and they took finding.
I think a lot of them did do. Now, we were saying about one thing you don't see a lot of on these is these clips, don't you?
Right.
Were they the original ones on there?
I don't know.
They must. People tell me that they're quite hard to find.
I suspect they've been replaced. Because that obviously that folds back, doesn't it? Hay time and that the farmers would fold them back to let a bit of heat out, I suppose.
So, in the significance of this machine, in terms of what it represents, this was the last of the DX100 series. It was built right before the introduction of Q cabs, so essentially it was obsolete by this time. But to find one that's with the 500 series just coming onto the market, to find this tractor looking like this, I think is absolutely spectacular. It really is a lovely machine. Now, you've obviously restored it a few years ago. Do you still use it occasionally, or is she?
No, it's mainly just take it to shows. It did have one. Its last job was actually, it took me dad to the church when he'd passed away.
Bless him.
And it took him to the church. So.
Well, what a way to go to church, eh? On your final ride. Yeah. What a machine to go on.
Yeah, so no, it was, it doesn't really do a lot now. I don't like getting it warm, because
take all the paint off it.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, thank you so very, very much for talking to us about your tractor. I'm really, really grateful, and it truly is an absolutely beautiful example of a Massey Ferguson 165. Now let's move on.